All right, call the regular council meeting of April the 8th to order. Before we go into the approval of the agenda, there's a couple of items I want to take care of just at my discretion. One is to acknowledge that Councillor Terry Forrester is joining us from London, England, where the time is 3 a.m. So you're looking well, Councillor. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
The second is to take a moment and acknowledge the passing of Iona Campanola. There are 12 pictures on the back wall, all freedom of the city. She was the last of all those that was still alive. All of the others have passed. All of those people have made significant contributions to the city of Prince Rupert. But I would say, without much fear of being contradicted, that Iona's star rose perhaps higher than any others. This is a picture of Iona the way the people of Prince Rupert might remember her. She's being, of course, remembered with the full honors of her office, and that's absolutely appropriate. But this was the cast of a production of Fiddler on the Roof. Iona is there with the flower in that picture. I traveled to Ketchikan, and there were people working in theater in Ketchikan who would ask about Iona and asked to be remembered to her. She was, while not born in Prince Rupert, she grew up part of her life in a home that I occupied out for a period of time at North Pacific Cannery. She lived in the watchman's house and was a cannery kid, went back and forth to school, and she eventually became an alderwoman, as they were called at the time, served on this council, sat here as a city councilor. She made a successful run for the Skeena riding MP and served in the Liberal Party under the Trudeau government. And in fact, was appointed minister, a cabinet minister of amateur sport. She eventually became quite integral in the Canada winning the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary. She was a member of the Order of Canada and promoted to an officer of the Order of Canada, and eventually to the Order of British Columbia. She's the founding chancellor of the University of Northern British Columbia, and the founding chair of the not-for-profit Fraser Basin Council, which is a very significant organization in the southern half of the province. In my time in office, and the other thing that marked her when she was appointed the first lieutenant governor of British Columbia, one of the things that she brought to that office, which had not really been a common thing in that era, was a real move towards reconciliation with First Nations people. She was given two names, one a Haida name, one a Tsimshian name. She incorporated that into the design of her uniform. And I personally witnessed her outreach in that way, in a very strong way at a time that was ahead of her time. When I was the mayor of Prince Rupert and she was the lieutenant governor, she made a special effort to acknowledge the mayor of Prince Rupert whenever I was in the room. And it's rare, I think, in this life to encounter a person who has both the common touch that she had and marry it with the incredible class that she brought to that office. When you were in the presence of the lieutenant governor, you knew you were in the presence of a really, really special human being. And so I just think it's so appropriate that we take a moment this evening before we begin our business to acknowledge the passing of a truly great citizen of Prince Rupert, and sending our condolences to the family. I don't know if anyone had anything else they want to add at this time. They certainly welcome to do that. Dr. Buchan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I shared a story with you earlier today. I never had the pleasure or honor of meeting Iona Campagnola, but I did get to see her in action in a way that I think revealed and verified her reputation. When I was working in the city of Langford, we had built a war memorial for the 8 women that died in the Merchant Marine Navy. There was no other war memorial for them. And without any fanfare, without advising anybody, and I only happened to notice this because I was at the memorial or nearby the memorial when she drove up with her staff person, got out with a wreath, walked over to the memorial, placed it, spent a few minutes, and left. It was for nobody's observation. It was just something that was important for her to do. And you know, when I watched her do that and I recognized her, I thought, wow, there's a person that walks the values that she speaks.
Any other comment from council? I'm not wanting to put anyone on the spot. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Buck, and I appreciate that. We will now move into the approval of the agenda. There's an agenda in front of you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Randhawa, Councillor Adey. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We now move to the public comment regarding agenda items. This is the one and only time where the members of the public have an opportunity to come forward and address council on any item that's on the agenda coming forward before council. You're certainly welcome to do that. Absolutely. Come sit in front of this microphone or bring the microphone towards you, whichever works better. And begin, of course, with your name. Push the button there, just excellent.
Got it?
Begin with your name and go ahead.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Your Worship. My name is Sal Chirico, and I'm here on behalf of my family to speak for a piece of property that we have here in Prince Rupert that we've had since 1986. It's 201 2nd Avenue West. And I just want to, I don't know if I'm allowed to go back just a little bit and whatnot. I just want to start off by saying that there was a miscommunication in how this all has come about, because I feel that in the past 25 years since I've been gone, the communication has been open and we've addressed every situation that has come forward or brought forward to us regarding the properties that we have here in Prince Rupert and we still maintain. And unfortunately with this one here, I believe what had happened, there was a miscommunication between land titles and our lawyer at the time when we had filed for a land transparency, which was done back in January of 2023. At that time, the land transparency was filed, and they had noticed there was a technical error on the name of the property, which in this case is the 201 2nd Avenue West, and the property is under Chirico Enterprises Limited. At that time, the lawyer noticed that there was a typo error, that it should have been LTD as opposed to LIMITED, and they made that simple change. For technical reasons, I mean, mom and dad are still alive today, thank God. His presence is here. And to avoid situations in the future, it was changed. And unfortunately, at that time, they reverted the address back to our original home on Park Avenue, which we haven't lived there since 1995, unfortunately. And this is how this all has come about. So it was not intentionally left aside or ignored or not dealt with. And as you can tell, that as soon as we found out, we jumped on it right away because we feel it needs to be done. So I'm here to apologize for that, for what has happened, and I hope we can move forward. And the one question that I do have, and I'm not sure if council can address it or if you can, or Ms. Miller, is with the communication that has been of my family, I'll speak, since 1960 and being a property owner since 1978 in this city, do we not look back at that to avoid a situation like this, or do we just simply go off what's on record and move forward from there. Even up until August of 2023, the information was coming back to the proper address. This all just happened here in January of this year. So to avoid situations like that for us and maybe any other landlord owner, would it not be the right way to just maybe reach out in a different manner as opposed to a registered letter that doesn't go to the right family or to the right person, the right individual? Is one of my questions on that.
I'm not going to be addressing any questions this evening, but
That's
fair enough.
on the part. So
Yeah.
since we received the email, I believe I've come up and done what I feel is appropriate for the building, and I'd like to ask council to reconsider the demolition order that's been put forward to it there. If you'd like, I can speak to you as to what's happening with the property.
Why don't you do that?
Okay. As I'm not sure how long everybody's been on council or part of it. Originally, it was a donut factory, which eventually became Husky Mohawk gas station up until 2012. In 2012, Husky pulled out of Prince Rupert due to economic reasons. And at that time, they started the decommissioning of the site. It's been a long and slow process. In 2014 is when all the infrastructure was removed. And since that point to today, we still continue on to be in communication with Husky Mohawk, and along with their environmental consultant out of Prince George, which is SLR. And it's my understanding that SLR is in communication with, I don't know the last name, but it's Gunit, regarding a certificate of compliance. And that's where we're at today. Originally, we had requested a certificate of compliance to drinking water standards, which is basically the highest level of compliance that needs to be met. Unfortunately, given the city that we are, and what it was in the beginning during the war, all that sort of stuff, the site has contaminants that are not related to the operation of a service station. It's way beyond our control, way beyond what we've inherited and anybody here out there. In that process there, we have gone to the Ministry of Environment and working through with our lawyer and environmental consultant in getting approval for a risk-based certificate of compliance, which is basically we'll be able to get funding for the property and be able to develop it to a commercial standard. And that is in the process now. Unfortunately, we had COVID. That didn't help either. That slowed down the process because we were hoping for this in 2022, and it hasn't come to light. And we just now I can show you guys some documents if you'd like, or I can forward them on to later, that we now have the approval to proceed with a risk-based certificate of compliance. In consulting with SLR, consulting out of Prince George, they have communicated that it could be a 6 to 8 month process, conservatively. She's hoping for 4 to 6. We're hoping for 4 to 6 as well. We'd like to jump on this property again and get it going to where it needs to be. I get numerous of phone calls on a weekly basis from other service station companies, restaurants, fast food chains, local business entrepreneurs, any type of business on a regular basis. And I completely say that, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I'll keep you on the list of things. I've got a list of numbers that I have people that need to call and keep them up to date. But once we start the process of remediating that building, fixing it up to where it needs to be, that's when we will start the process. But I cannot do anything until we get that risk-based certificate of compliance on that part of it. We do our best to maintain that building. I feel that if there is any communication that needs to be done, please reach out, cell phone, email. Yeah, hopefully now our addresses have all been changed correctly on that. But we're here to answer any questions that you have. And I can reassure you that we do want to develop that property back up to where it needs to be. Myself and my dad were here almost 32 years ago and accepted a recognition award for renovating the Capitol Theater building and saving it, because that was almost down the road to a wrecking ball. So we're here to stay. Even though we may not live here, We have property. My parents take huge pride in this community, a huge pride in this community, and we want to be part of it. May not be here living all the time, but we do want to maintain our buildings, our properties, and maintain the city of Prince Rupert. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. I've addressed the communication with Rosa to what I hope is acceptable standard. My son and I have been here for a couple of days, just doing whatever we can to get it where we need to be, and dealing with 6 years of weather in 2 days. So
This isn't really an opportunity for council to ask you questions, but I appreciate what you've said, and it will certainly factor into council's decision later in the evening.
okay.
Yeah, thank you. And for what it's worth, the Chiricos are part of Prince Rupert, regardless of where they reside.
Since May 6th, 1960.
All right.
I found my mom's arrival papers
Wow.
just the other day, and her first place of address was 746 Taylor Street.
Wow.
That's where my uncle Felix came and supported everybody from then. So this is where they've stayed. And
Excellent.
we'd like to be part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other members of the public who would like to come forward and address council? Again, the button's been pushed. I don't think you need to touch it. If you just begin with your name.
Okay, good afternoon to everybody here in the room. My name is George Pizarro. I came to Prince Rupert in 1976, and I did work for a company in town for 34 years. Sometimes they send me out to Vancouver. And we are just a working family. We are together since 1975. And we had plans of have a property where we could build housing for the homeless. I have a Facebook. The name is Prince Rupert Seafest, where I have a series of housing economic type and a series of tools and things that if somebody is interested to have an idea of what I'm talking about. And things have been happening in my family, as probably you know. Then we have been getting behind. We had some problems, and the problems got economical problem behind too. Then we couldn't service the property, clean it, and there came this new law what started in exercise on January the 1st, I think. There we have to clean the property, and it's a series of rules that is very expensive, if prohibitive for us. We cannot make it. Then we are thinking that we are losing the property. We are not in condition of comply with the demand of the law. I don't know if this is a British Columbia law, I think. And here I am asking to the City Hall if they can come up with an idea, with a solution, you know, because I've been looking for a solution, and I know I cannot do nothing till I have the response from the city. Now, whatever is the result of my letter that I sent explaining that in this town is a series of old houses from the war time. All those old houses are just a deposit of pollutants. They got asbestos and a series of other products that they are nocive to the population. I understand that. I agree with that. The cleanup has to be done. I don't argue about that. But the manner to be done, you know, I don't think has to rest on the people itself. Maybe we can help because we have received this property that they have built wartime. This is wartime. You know, we assume these houses are being with the building permit. We sold the comply of the law at the time, and we inherit now that thing that is polluted, and the law said no, it's not allowed. We demolish and take it to the garbage dump. But to take it to the garbage dump, you have to pay special fees because this got polluted. They got a whole series of things to comply with, and it's prohibited for us. It should be a difference in between industrial and people like big mansions and small little houses that we know is a crisis. Housing crisis in Canada is serious. And my information that I send here, even the Prime Minister of Canada is worried and he is dedicating $1.5 billion to try to attack the problem somehow. We are totally uncovered. We are here, we got to comply with the law. And all that people that have wartime houses, they don't know this thing. And when they want to modify or they have a fire or it could be an earthquake or something and they have to clean up, how are they going to do it? They are all poor people. That's why they live in these old houses, because they are low rental, because they are cheap to buy. And now we have to afford this very expensive system. Okay, man, we cannot do it as the working people. Then the government is okay to do the cleanup, but it should have some sort of help, you know. After all, those houses comply with their proposal, you know, they house people, they allow to the population to grow up, you know. We don't have natality, but there was natality, and lots of people were born in there, and they live there, and they're still alive. Then the pollution is there, yes, produced cancer in a long time, we have to get it out, but at the same time, it's very drastic the way economically. Now, it's okay, let's do it. I lose my property, I cannot afford it, I walked away. Okay, all thousands of people, we have to do the same. I will ask the city to think an idea. I sent a second letter where I ask to make a group of people. Like Tricorp is a school that trains people for things of construction. And if people got property that is willing to give it, to donate the property for this matter. And we have the government that is putting $1.5 billion. And we have the native here where they have lots of interest in making the thing to go up. I see them going in business. I will give the idea to the city that get the Minister of Housing, some native bank from around here, Tricorp, the city hall, and some person that is concerned with the homeless people, you know. I don't remember the number of all these, it was in the thousands, and that's because they have no house. And get together, all this group of people, the city, the native, Tricorp, and maybe some people who want to donate something, and make a factory of houses where they could be economical, modular houses. They are in the internet. They cost about $20,000-$30,000 because, you know, if you make it an industrial way yourself here in town, will be way cheaper than bringing it from China, will produce no employment. And here you will produce employment, training, practice, and maybe if it's an organization that help the property owner to put a new house, that the house got a duplex. It's a small duplex. In my letter, I explained that too, where the government that put the money to clean up the house has to recover the money. Then you make a duplex, and if the government collect the rent of the one side duplex through a bank or through an organization, like in town we have macro organization, and that pays the mortgage. When the mortgage is paid completely, then the owner of the property can start collecting the rent of that second unit inside the property. It will help the homeless. It will help the people that is working class, people that live in very modest housing here because of the weather and everything. And it will help to clean the city. We comply with the real need of the country because this is necessary. I ask you for help. I ask you for help to look into my letter, my second letter, where is the idea, and to see if you people can come up with a solution for all the other people, because it's not just me. I've been affected, yes, but it hit me hard, you know. But I think some other people will feel even to kill themselves when they will get the notice. It will, because it's a big impact. This is the saving of the whole life of the people. Look at us. I am 77. How much time I got left to recover that? I don't have no more physic. I can barely move the arms. You know? That is my point. For all of you, think about the people that have no home. They are in the street. They are getting into drugs. The children that are born in that, they are all sick. What kind of future do they have? Think about, please. That is my point. I need help, but other people do need much more help than us. And that is my idea. You guys can work the idea. You got people with knowledge, professionals, doctors, engineers, accountants. I don't know nothing. I am just a welder. But this is my idea, my proposition. I'm willing to help. I am available. That is my point.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to address council this evening on any matter that's on the agenda? I'll ask a final time.
I have to apologize. I wasn't able to log in, so I wasn't able to hear what Sal actually said. But I would reiterate, I think we're in a position and with our property on 2nd Avenue West. Sorry, I should ask, am I okay to talk or shall I?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think, and again, I wasn't able to hear what Sal had presented, but I'm assuming what we discussed prior to this meeting was presented. We're asking for reconsideration on the motion that was put forward to progress with removing the building at 201 2nd Avenue West. To put it in simple terms, I mean, absolutely crazy to think that we've come to a day and age in this society, and I understand where the city's coming from. And we support, let's make it very clear, the Chirico Enterprise, the Chirico family has been very integral part of the community in Prince Rupert for better part of over 50 years. And I think there's many people on council that would second that. But to feel almost picked on, I guess, to say, and to have a breakdown in communication. We've always been stand-up people within the community. We've always responded well to any communication that's been put forward in regards to this building. I can't stress enough how taken back we are on the actions that have taken place, but we want to put our best foot forward to try and work together and leave our differences from the beginning aside. But at the token that I think there needs to be some acknowledgement that the Chirico family and Chirico Enterprises were not notified. And I think that's something that needs to be recognized because it hasn't been yet. We've proven that we didn't receive registered mail, but yet the city moved forward with a motion without even, taking into account what we were trying to say. And still yet we haven't received anything to say, yes, there was an error. It was sent to a property that we haven't owned for 4 years. The company hasn't been registered there for over 30 years. There was an error, a clerical error, for whatever reason, but there needs to be some sort of acknowledgement. Again, we're willing to work with council and with the city to improve the city. And I think you can look around and see what else we own in the city. And we're not those type of people. We're not speculation buyers. We're not individuals that are looking to make a quick buck. We're still an integral part of the community. We still have a residence there, and we're very much involved in Prince Rupert. And I'll finalize this comment is that we want to work with the city, but I feel that we have been targeted. I feel that there's been some actions taken that have shed us in a negative light, and I think there needs to be some acknowledgement there from the city. I really, really do. In saying that, I think we have proposed what we're doing, and I think most of the work's already been done. And I'll go back to communication we had in March when we were March of 21, asked to correct some situations that were happening on the property specific to the cleanliness, which we addressed. So the history shows that we've continually done what we needed to do to uphold our end of the deal. But in saying that, I look forward for this motion to be quashed and move on, and hopefully we can work together to try and find a solution to move on from this situation that occurred. And we look forward to hearing what you guys have to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address council on any matter on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on. We move on to the consent agenda. There are a number of items on there. Minutes from the regular meeting, committee of the whole minutes. There's a request for support for the curling rink grant application. Report from the Director of Corporate Legislative Services with regards to noise bylaw. Correspondence from BC Emergency Health Services with regards to the actions they've taken to support patients in Prince Rupert and other northern communities. Prince Rupert Port Authority letter with regards to support for improved health services in Prince Rupert. A good letter that I suggest that if people are interested that they read. There are two requests for proclamations, one from the National Advanced Care Planning Day and one for May 17th for International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. I am going to read it's a little bit lengthy, but I'm going to read the proclamation that is requested of the Advanced Society for National Advanced Care Planning Day. Reads as follows. Whereas the circumstances of life can change so rapidly that individuals may not have the opportunity to express and document their wishes concerning their care, if they become incapacitated, and the majority of family members and friends would honor the wishes of those individuals were they known and documented. And whereas legal and financial institutions welcome and encourage individuals to include such documents with last wills and testaments, and medical professionals recognize and value written documentation about patients' wishes while they are capable of making decisions. And whereas the BC Ambulance Services, through the Green Sleeves Initiative, encourage individuals to assist themselves and their families by documenting current conditions and medications for the benefit of families and first responders. And whereas Prince Rupert and District Hospice Society has trained volunteers to assist individuals to have conversations with family, friends, medical practitioners about advanced care planning, and can assist with the documentation and joint efforts of the local hospice society and the local ambulance service are willing to support the community in this regard. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Herb Pond, Mayor of Prince Rupert of the city of the province of British Columbia, Canada, do hereby proclaim April 16th, 2024 as Advanced Care Planning Day in Prince Rupert. The second proclamation that we've been requested to pass, I think Council endorses, but it's specific to Quebec, and so I'll try to de-Quebec it because it doesn't make much sense in the current. And that is, whereas the Canadian Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms recognizes that no one can be discriminated against on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity or expression, and whereas Canada is a society open to everyone, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans people, and to all other people who identify with sexual diversity and the multiplicity of genders and identities and expressions. And whereas despite recent efforts towards greater inclusion of LGBTQ plus people, homophobia and transphobia are still present in society. Whereas May 17th is the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, is celebrated as such in many countries, and is the result of a Quebec-based initiative promoted by Fondation Emergence, starting in 2003. And whereas there is reason to support the efforts of the Fondation Emergence in holding that day, it is resolved to proclaim May the 17th International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, and to recognize this day as such. Those two proclamations are included in the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councillor Adey, Councillor Forster, we're going all the way to London. We'll make sure London gets included at least once this evening. Any discussion? Councillor Cunningham.
On the emergency services, for BC Emergency Services, I was told that this was only here for the Easter holidays, and with the uncertainty of ER being closed in the future again, is this service still going to be available with a critical care attendant as well as extra ambulances in case people have to be transported to Terrace? So there's backups. Do we know that?
Director Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding from the BCEHS that they do intend as much as they can to ensure that the services are maintained past spring break to ensure that there's coverage during the closures. That would include the critical care paramedic.
Any other questions or comments with regards to the consent agenda? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We then move on to reports. Report from the Director of Corporate Legislative Services with regards to 201 2nd Avenue West remedial action order, with a recommendation as follows. That Council amend the original remedial action order of February the 26th, 2024 for cleanup under Section 74 of the Community Charter, whereby the City of Prince Rupert will proceed with the cleanup of the property as set out in items 1 through 7 in the report, located at 201 2nd Avenue West, legally known as lots 9, 10, 11, and 12, Section 1, District Lot 251, Range 5, Post District Plan 923. Oh my gosh. PIDs 007578067, 014772043, 014772051, 014772060, with the cost of cleanup placed on the property taxes of the property if the cleanup as set out in items 1 through 7 of the report has not occurred as noticed and accepted by council by May 31st or May 30th, 2024. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Niche, is there a seconder? Councillor Forrester, discussion, comments or questions? Councillor Niche.
I'm just glad to see that the Chiricos came and took care of things so fast when called upon. I think there's still a couple more things on the list, but other than that, glad to see that they've taken care of most of it already before we even got here this evening.
And maybe just for the sake of people that are listening at home, I'll read through that list of 7 items. How's that sound? Removal of all unkept grass and weeds on the property, pressure wash the premises, entrance, property grounds, etc. Cleanup and removal of all garbage on site, removal or covering up by way of painting the exterior of all graffiti on the property, replace any damaged fence panels, removal of the old dilapidated signs at the corner of the property, and removal or appropriate replacement of plywood window covers. Councillor Cunningham.
The date, is that acceptable by both parties, or can they get an extension if they don't get all the work done? And number 7 on that, second part of my question is number 7, removal or appropriate replacement of plywood window coverings. In the environment in our town right now with vandalism and that, you pretty well have to cover some windows up, but what's an appropriate covering other than plywood for something like that?
Dr. Buchan.
And on the first point, can an extension be given? The answer is yes. The report lays out the 7 items. If there is a compelling reason why one needs to be amended or more, the request can be made and council can consider it. In terms of the plywood question, I think I'd like to discuss that further with staff.
Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, thank you. I just think that there's a lot of windows covered in plywood in this town, and I think it should be addressed to all of them. And as well, Your Honor, Councillor Forrester had her hand up.
Dr. Buchan.
And just to answer the question as to that it should be addressed with all of them, the answer is it is being addressed with all of them. So that's underway.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Adey.
Yeah, maybe a question. If I'm reading this correctly, meeting the 7 terms laid out here would then mean that they're in compliance with what we're expecting, and there wouldn't be a potential demolition of the building to follow. Is that correct?
Correct.
So given that, then I also share with the Chiricos the expressed vision that the building become a vibrant concern of some kind. I don't know what that is going to turn out to be. I think that's a common purpose for all of us. And what I'm hearing is that there may be a time lag that is beyond their control in terms of getting the particular certification that they need. So I guess where I'm coming from on this is that I feel like as long as that process of pursuing the certificate of compliance is underway and confirmed, as long as these 7 items are taken care of, I think beyond that, I'm personally quite happy to allow the deadlines to be dictated by the pursuit of the relevant certificate.
And I think that is in fact what this recommendation achieves, right? They would take care of the shorter term issues, recognizing that there's some longer term issues to deal with. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a bit of a question of clarity I'm hoping you can help me with. As a property owner, if there is a clerical error somewhere along the way where the name of a property or anything like that is made, whose responsibility is it to ensure that everything is corrected?
I'm not in position to give that opinion, but Director Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to the clerical error, it's staff's responsibility to send the notices strictly as noted on title, and then to whichever address we may become aware after the fact. So we've then communicated by email. But it would be up to the property owner to ensure that their title is correct. There's nothing that staff could do in order to correct that title. The information in our system is strictly from BC Assessment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Councillor Cunningham.
Just to follow up on what Councillor E said, the risk-based compliance isn't part of the 7 issues, so
No.
That doesn't enter into the time factor at all.
On this order, no.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Correct. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you. The next item up is a report from the report from the planner. Is that right? Yeah. With regards to development variance permit 2401 PID 031 690823 located at Seal Cove Circle. The council proceeds with statutory notification process for development variance permit DVP 2401 PID 031 690823 located on Seal Cove Circle. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Randhawa, Councillor Eadie, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. We have a report from the Chief Financial Officer with regards to resolution to amend 2024 5-year financial plan bylaw number 3526. Recommendation is that council approve the addition of the financial plan outlined in this report and that the 2024 5-year financial plan be amended accordingly. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Niche, Councillor Skelton Morvan. Any discussion or questions? Councillor Eadie.
This is with respect to the McCarthy building and the
correct.
So you'd have to be living under a rock not to be aware that there's been a lot of opinions expressed about this issue. So I'd like to go back through it a little bit and by way of doing so, get to a couple of questions that I hope will help clarify the situation for the public. So I was in the previous council that originally took the decision to pursue this. At the time, there was a degree of urgency around the situation of the existing works yard, and so there was some urgency to make a decision to move this particular option to take over the McCarthy building as a lease to own represented as we understood it at the time, cost effectiveness and also speed in terms of solving the problem that we needed to solve. So at the time, it was not really a particularly difficult decision to make based on what we understood. Unfortunately, nothing ever quite turns out the way you want it to. And so there were some bumps on the road. COVID happened. We became aware of upgrades that we did not foresee. And the pipe that sits on the table emerged as a pretty consuming issue for the city to put its energy into dealing with. So as a result, we got some delays. There have been added costs, and that's, I think, where the controversy comes from. So what we have here before us is a decision which is to support an amendment which involves a cost that will be taken by Legacy. And so my first question is with respect to this particular decision, what is it that we are going to get from passing this motion in terms of information that we need to move forward? And then at the end of the process, which I hope is going to be fairly soon, I think the public needs to know whether, after all is said and done, is this still the most cost-effective way for us to go about making sure that our city crews have a viable place to do their work.
Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, I'll defer this to Director Pucci to respond to.
Director Pucci.
Thank you. Through the chair. So yes, I mean, we have had some setbacks, and you're correct, COVID, us going full force on our infrastructural program. And also we've had some staff turnover. 2 leads on the project have left, and we have them replaced now. So we're back on track. To answer your question around the best value here, we earlier this year and end of last year, coming into this year, before we came forward with the cost, we had a comparison completed to do a new build versus renovation of the McCarthy building to make sure that we were still in the right place, and that concluded that we are still in the right place. That the renovations will still be cheaper than building a new building, so we are still on the right track with the renovations of the McCarthy building moving forward, and that's with property purchase included. Thank you.
Councillor Eadie.
And that was my second question. My first question was specifically with respect to what we are considering tonight. What are we going to get from this decision?
Director Pucci.
Thank you. Through the chair. So what we'll get is a GMP cost. So it'll be a guaranteed maximum price that then we can move forward with. So we know the exact cost of the renovation of the property. Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham.
A couple questions. This is just a design proposal. Once we get this, we'll know what the actual cost of renovation and building will be. How can you do a cost-effective analysis when you don't know what the cost of the new building or the renovation is going to be?
Director Pucci.
Using square areas, using a Class D estimate. So what it is it's just a wider range class estimate, and then we narrow it down with the final design, and we get a very, very specific price for the renewal.
Councillor Cunningham.
Do you have that figure?
Director Pucci.
I do have that Class B estimate, yes. Or sorry, Class D estimate, yes. Yeah, we do have that comparison versus a new build, yes.
When this is all done, I guess it's pretty hard to put a date on when we'll actually be moving into this building.
Director Pucci.
We envision it will be in January of 2025, hopefully moving in during the Christmas break. So we've worked with the contractor, and they believe it can be done over those months. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions from council? Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, just to put a little more information on the response as to what does this decision achieve. It allows staff to proceed with actually having the work done. So it allows us to get to the point that where the move in is accomplished by January. So that's I think something that everybody wants to see is some action and some completion on that site.
Councillor Cunningham.
Is this in the 2024 budget, the actual cost of the renovation? Because we're making an amendment to the 5-year plan here. How about the actual cost of the renovation?
Dr. Where am I going, Dr. Buck?
Your worship, I'd like to defer that to Director Bombin.
Director Bombin.
Thank you for the question. Once we know how much the cost of the construction will be, as the report has pointed out, we will be coming forward to council with recommendations on how to fund the next phase of the project, which would be construction.
Councillor Cunningham.
So then it's not budgeted for you.
No, because we don't know how much it is.
All right, any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. Council Roundtable. This is your time for comments or questions, councillors. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions. The first one, I was hoping I could get an update on the 6th Avenue Bridge. What's happening? Are we moving forward?
All right. Director Pucci.
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, we have received 4 proposals. We were hoping to award at this council meeting. However, just due to the nature of the work, the review is going to take an extra week, and we have 4, which is good to have competition there. We need to do a lot of checks to ensure that the contractors that have come forward actually have the experience with trestle bridges, and then we can look at bring in an award to council at the next council meeting. Thank you.
Can you make a rough guess on when that work might be completed?
We would award and have it going immediately. It's ready to roll.
Thank you. Councillor Forster, you had another question.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the answer for that. That's positive news. Mine, Mr. Mayor, I just had a question. My understanding is when I take waste, whether it be polluted building materials or household garbage or whatever waste to the dump, it's done by weight. And just a comment in the from the public left me a little bit confused. Can you help me understand if I have waste, building materials or other, and I take them to the dump, is it not done by weight?
Director Pucci.
Through the chair, no, that's correct. It's done by weight going across the scale. We scale in and out vehicles, and even if they're larger dumpster vehicles. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That was my question. That cleared that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Randawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, people asking we got the grants from federal and provincial for our infrastructure. So now they keep on asking what's our dates, when we can start that.
When are we going to start which?
Changing pipes and roads, our scheduling dates.
Oh, okay. Director
Do you have
Pucci.
any option?
Scheduling with regards to construction.
Thank you. So we have started. We've started with the first and most important piece of pipe, which is the Schwatland Road pipe. That's the single pipe that brings water to our community, to our reservoir. As I said in the town hall, in the next few weeks, we will be releasing year 1 corridors. We're just going through them right now and ensuring that we have the right corridors for year 1. So I think in the next few weeks we will, and I would like also to come forward to council and possibly do a presentation around what that's going to look like for those corridors and the people that live in those corridors. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
It was brought to my attention at the town hall that a very important volunteer group in our city is going to be homeless soon, and it's very important that we find a home for their equipment and their operation at Prince Rupert Ground Search and Rescue. And I'd like staff, if possible, in their spare time, which is very little, to see if there's any structures or that in the city that even could be temporarily used for them until they find a permanent home, or if we can assist them in finding a permanent home. Because it's something the city really uses, and it's a volunteer group, and they accent quite a few other services we have.
Thank you very much. I'm sure staff made a note. Councillor 80.
And just to follow up on that, I had, I think, a similar conversation, and I think that the president of the search and rescue group it would be happy to come and speak to us in terms of, in general, what they're doing, but also what they need. Specifically, I think in practical terms, they're looking for a place to house their vehicle. And perhaps a little space beyond that. But I think there's a willingness to come and present to council, so maybe we can find a way to pursue that.
Yeah, and if any of those members are listening now, they can reach out to Director Miller.
That was the advice I've already given. So,
excellent.
Yeah. I did have a couple of things.
Go ahead, Councillor 80.
I would like to extend empathy to those people who were displaced by the recent fire on 11th Avenue, and also to commend the fire department for what I understand to have been a very effective and efficient response to an unfortunate circumstance. So I'd like to say that. And the other item I'd like to touch on was the town hall that we had the other night. I want to thank all of those people who came and those who watched on television, and thank staff for a thoughtful and organized presentation of where we are now with the infrastructure project. I think everybody walked away with a sense of the scale of what's involved, and I think we're all going to be appreciating that scale for the next 3 years. One small point, I know that there was a question from the public about cleaning up litter, and there was a response in terms of what the city does about cleaning up litter. I think that something was missed, and I know we've referred to this before. I know Councillor Cunningham did before. Somebody spoke out and said Chantal Megason.
Yes.
And I think we would be remiss if we didn't circle back and reinforce that there is a group that does those kinds of community cleanups. That Chantal Megason is the key organizer of that group, and that their work is very much appreciated.
Well said. Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
You don't have to be an organized group to clean up litter. You can do it on your own anytime. And when you're walking down the street, you can pick it up and put it in a garbage can.
Councillor Niche.
Even collect the empties.
Councillor Niche.
I just wanted to touch a little bit on what Councillor Forrester was talking about as far as the dump and, and tearing down a building and, when you being polluted, if it's got things like asbestos in it, well then yes, that's going to cost more money because the rates are higher for those, things. But, it's all relative to how much work you put into it yourself. I can use an example about 5 years ago where I tore down the house myself by hand. And by the time I was done, it cost me about $2,000 in dumpsters. But if you choose to bring in an excavator and knock it down and it's all bundled in one, you're going to pay the most. If you pull out raw wood, well, most of your structure is raw wood. You can take all the raw wood out and you take that, it's super cheap to get rid of. So I guess that's a little bit more to your answer. Your question is, if it's polluted with asbestos, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If it's recycled and separated, you can save a lot of money by doing it that way. So I just thought I'd add that for your information.
Good. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor 80, Councillor Randawa, all in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.